All right, so made a few changes, quite a bit actually. I'm going to be going over them. I did these off the recording, so this would be more of a review than live coding. But yeah, let's just start with what was the last thing? Get calculations. So one thing I found is let's start here actually. So I was just setting the time to New York time. Um, Basically getting the timestamp. And again, this is coming from the grouped daily endpoint on Polygon. And what that gives you, let me pull that up really quick. Grouped daily is right here. I'm recording, right? Yeah. What that gives you is basically this. You type in a date, and every minute these update. So that's one way, and it gives every stock basically in the market. So it's one way to make one API request and get the updated close price every minute of every stock. Um, so that's that. Otherwise, what you have to do, let's say you wanted to get 15-minute bars, you'd have to get it, you can't make this request to multiple stocks, as far as I know. I think Alpaca might have a way to do that. I don't know, but or other places might have a way to do that. But anyways, this is an efficient way to do it. One API request, it's pretty quick, comes back. So that's that. Another thing you could use probably is snapshots. So you could use what is universal snapshot? You could use snapshots instead. That would get the quotes, the trades, the close. This is another way to do it, but I think group daily is fine. Since I need 15-minute bars, this is running on a timer every 15 minutes. So I know I've went over that a couple times, but that's it again. So yeah, group daily comes back, and the problem is it gives you end of day timestamp. So 1600 end of trading day timestamp. So 1600 New York time. And no matter what where you are in the day, it gives you that timestamp. So you can't use that. So instead of using the timestamp it gives you, which I was doing here, I'm using getting the current time. I'm using replace to because it runs like a second after the 15-minute mark or 2 seconds. This will round it down to that minute, so this will be exactly the 15-minute mark. And then 15 minutes ago, so the reason for this is because you have to get the, say for 10 o'clock, um, the close price of that candle. So that candle goes from 10 o'clock. Here, let me pull this up. Let's go to 10 o'clock. So here's 10 o'clock. The close price of this candle would you would get it basically at the open of this candle. So the timer runs again, and you call the group daily aggregates endpoint. You get the close price there that you would assign to this. So that's why I'm subtracting 15 minutes because you want the close of the 10 o'clock to be the number you get there. So subtracting 15 minutes, and then the local time I'm working with is Chicago or Central Time, and so I'm converting that to New York time because it's always good when you're working with market stuff to, if you can, convert it to New York time. It's you don't have to deal with the daylight savings. It's always the same and it just works. It's what most places use. So, um, and then I'm basically just setting the timestamp column. in the data frame, whereas I was setting it, or it was already being set from the, um, it was already being set from the API call results response. It's being set now based on that, the calculation that's being done here. And then it's localizing, so do I need to do that? Basically, it's getting rid of the time zone information. So you just see like, here, let me see if I can find an example. So yeah, if it, this does not have the time zone information. If it had the time zone information, there'd be like a dash there, and it would say like, it would specify a number relative to GMT or UTC, I believe. So, um, let me see, I actually want to see something. GMT versus UTC. Okay, yeah, I guess for the most part you could probably use them interchangeably. But anyways, yeah, that's what localize does. It removes the time zone information. So, um, yeah, it looks like this format basically. And there's no dash and then offset of UTC. Okay, so that's the whole reason for that. Another thing is the open is no longer relevant because what this open is, this open price it gets, and I don't need the open. If I do, for whatever reason, I'll have to figure out another way to do it. Um, because the open price is always the open of that day. So it's not going to be the open of previous minute, the previous whatever. It's just always going to be that day. So that's not helpful for any bar except for the first bar. So I just got rid of that. So open's gone. That is that. Max length. So, sometimes I found that the API doesn't return, basically, it doesn't return, uh, what's going on here? Let me just check something. DF, calc DF. Yeah, it doesn't return like, every timestamp or every minute you don't get a data point. And it's basically stocks that don't trade very much volume, I believe. This is why that happens. So it kind of acts as a filter that I wanted to kind of do anyways. Um, so I want continuous, no gaps in times, like for my calculations. Maybe I'll change this later, but there's multiple ways you could do this. The way I'm doing it is I'm assuming that the max length, meaning I'm grouping by ticker. So if, for instance, Apple has 5 entries up to this point, because this runs every 15 minutes, if it has 5 entries now in the updated data, because we're taking the previous data and appending a row to it, basically, for each ticker. So if now Apple has 5, and Apple trades every minute, because it's just a liquid stock, then its length would be whatever. It's grabbing the length of each and getting the max. So let's say at this point the max would be 5, and then it's just filtering out any tickers that did not have the max. Do not meet that max, which would be has data at every 15-minute interval, basically. So that's what that is. Anything else in here? Oh yeah, I read in linter. Let me see. Do I have AutoPep? Why is this not warning me of anything? I don't know. I gotta fix that. But in my other computer setup, I have AutoPep is working and is warning me about this timeout. So I didn't have a timeout on any of my requests. And basically it says it could hang forever. I would assume they would have a default, but and maybe they do, but I looked into their docs and they suggest doing some time that's first of all they say this is seconds, and second of all they suggest some time that's a little bit over a multiple of 3. I didn't really read into why. I just did that, so this is a little bit over a multiple of 3, and I put this everywhere I'm making a request using a request library. So, and that's the docs I was looking at, is the request library docs. Last thing is I now need the poly key with all this stuff, right? Why is that poly key? Oh, I'm not putting it here. I don't know why. Let me do that. Yeah, I'll put it. You know what? I'm gonna leave it how it is. Here, I'll do this. Oops, I'll leave that, and then I'll comment this out. I don't want to accidentally print out the key. That's why I'm thinking about not doing it for now. Production, obviously, it's using it. Okay. In testing, I don't need it at all, because it just makes requests to this test endpoint, which actually I'll switch over to right now. All right, cool. So that's that. And I'm not going to update the test endpoint to account for the changes I made. It's fine. It worked. It served its purpose. There's no problem with it. Anyways, that's poly key. And then warning price targets. Oh, this has changed. I'll come back to this later. I'll leave that for now. And then this. So, what is this? Oh, yeah. So every 15 minutes, the file that it will eventually output, it's listening basically this thing is running every 1 second, and then it's looking for changes basically in the file. I know there's other ways to do that with file watchers, whatever, but that's how I'm doing it right now. And then if there notices a change in the file, then if it notices it gets modified, then I basically want to clear out its last targets that it had, because they're no longer valid once that new 15-minute thing hits. They're no longer valid. But I want to do that immediately, as fast as possible. So all these calculations take some time, where it eventually writes to that file. It will down here. It'll eventually write to that file down there. But I want it to happen as quick as possible. So I'm putting this right after the built-in imports. So, which I believe are basically instant. So I could put it above, but then it needs, I don't know, it needs date time, so whatever, it's fine. So get calculations. So I want to say for the message on this one, basically use, I'm not gonna worry about the filter. Use current time. I mean, technically this should go in a different commit, but I'll just include it, and it's not a big deal. I have another place I'm doing this too, which I'll get to. So what do I want to do? Use um fix timestamp. How about that? Use correct timestamp. Okay. Let's commit that. All right. Another thing I did was in here I have some imports which I'm using below, which I'll get to. I'm including the poly key because I now want it in this file. The trading dates I basically just moved down here just for organization, no other reason. Um, and let me come back to that. Should I come back to that? Yeah, I'll come back to this and I'll just talk quickly about this other stuff I added. So I want to be able to get to send the market caps with the alerts. Um, so you don't want to do that in real time because it's just extra latency for the alert. So I'm doing it in this init part, which is going to run every day. It's actually going to run before market open instead of after, which I'll get to in a minute. Instead of after market close. So I'll get to why. It's you can probably guess why, but anyways, I want market caps. So basically, if testing, it's going to do the stuff it was doing before. One quick thing about this if testing, I could honestly just either have separate scripts or I could have a whole block for if testing and a whole block for not testing and just put those all together. It might be a little bit more clear. I'm not sure. But the way I'm doing it now is I have different blocks of if testing and not. I know there's a lot of different ways you could do that. Um, Again, you could have totally separate scripts. Uh, anyways, you could use environment variables, etc., etc. Anyways, this is how I'm doing it. And if we're not testing, so in prod, because testing I don't care about the market caps, it's only prod, so getting ticker info data, and that's basically two things. It's SIC description, which is basically what industry the stock is in, and market cap. This is not as important, but I'm getting both because they're available. And you need to use the reference or the ticker details endpoint to get this through Polygon. There are other ways to get market caps on different data, different data providers, but I'm not sure that any of them are better, and I already have a subscription for this. So yeah, using ticker details v3, you basically specify a ticker and a date, and I'm using the ticker from the list. I'm actually going to remove this. This was just for testing. I was basically using only two tickers from the list. Get rid of that and that. And we don't need this print either. And it's basically calling that endpoint with the current ticker during this iteration of the loop and the current date string, which is set up here, and the key. I'm not using the params object or the params argument here like I was before. I'm just throwing it all in the URL in one place. And then we're making the request. When it gets back, it's saying doing the usual thing. This could be a problem if this is undefined, but I don't think this is ever undefined. Maybe. I'll have to make a note about that. Here, let's see. Handle results undefined. Or I'll just do it right now. If results, yeah, I'll say results. That's fine. So we have this object that we are adding information into if it has them, basically. So the results, if the results are defined, then we do get the market cap, and we're using get, so this could be none, this could be none. If it doesn't come back, and then we're setting those two values, which could be set to none. Okay. And I probably should. I'm debating whether, if I want to say, if neither one of these exists, don't even do this, but I think it's fine. setting them to none. I want to test this and see what happens if these are none actually. Let's actually do that right now. So ticker info, I need to make that folder. Or is it stock info? Is that where I saved it? Yeah. Okay, so let's run that right now. Python init. I'm getting this data. I don't really need it, but key error ticker. What? What the heck? Key error ticker. Where is that occurring? Ah, okay. So I was doing this wrong. I did make a change, assuming that's how it would work. I know what I need to do, basically. Why is that actually? Calc data df. Oh, ah, there we go. Calc df. Cal Okay, let's see that. Stock info. And then I'm purposely going to set this to none. Just want to see what it stores it as. Is it null? Yeah, null. Okay. Okay, that's fine. I was thinking if neither one, I don't know if I said this earlier, if neither one of these, or both these are none basically. So I'd do an or here, if that or that, then save it. Um, Otherwise, it wouldn't even have it in there, but I think it's fine just having two nulls for a ticker. It's not a big deal. Okay. So there's that. Let me actually run this and get the actual data. Okay, cool. This is a decimal. There's like a decimal at the end. You could just convert it to an int before saving, but I'm gonna leave it like that for now. And then yeah, this, I don't know if you need to do this, but this just makes sure that during this loop, after every request, it waits for half a second so you don't hit the API too many times quickly. With open stock info, so that's all done. So I talked about all that. Almost ready to commit this. So let's see here. The only other thing I want to talk about was this override stuff and this change up here. So on the, let's see, ticker, no, Polygon, I have flat files on here. Where is it? Trades, minute aggregates. So if you look, End of day, I was assuming this meant end of trading day, but it did update like at the end, like later in the day for me, but I don't want to rely on that. And I know by the next day for sure, they'll have it. And they always, I think they're using either New York Time or GMT where they do it, if I had to guess. But it's always there the next day. So I'm basically going to have the timer run to get this data on the before market open instead of after market close. So just to make sure it's there. It's definitely not there right away because I had it not work today, about 15-20 minutes after market close. And then I checked even later than that, it wasn't there. So the change I made there was I had all this stuff about this. I don't know. I just kind of looked at it and sort of ignored it. This was the same as the other one. But anyways, ignore that and just let's look at this. Basically, if it's testing, it does it the same way as it did, and then if it's not testing, it just looks at the trading dates and gets the very last one. Very simple, because it wants to get the current day you look at. It wants to get the trading day right before that and get the data. So that's it. So that is that. Last thing, I had this override in here. I'm gonna leave it in here just in case I want it later. Um, this overwrite property, and what this is when I was having it do it the same day instead of the next day, it would not overwrite the um, or sorry, yeah, it would not overwrite the value I had in there, or the calculation bars that I had in there, and I want it to come from every day to get updated from this flat file instead of the way I'm doing it with the daily aggregates. Because every day the new one gets populated as each 15-minute interval comes in, a new row gets added on a new date on that date. But then at the end of the day, I want that to be replaced with the data from here, the flat file stuff. And that wasn't overriding because of the way I was doing it. Where is that? So it was just saying, oh, it already has the file. I don't need to go download it, basically, is the way I set it up. So I put a parameter for overriding and then set that to true because at the time I did want it to do that, but now that I realize that I don't, now that I realize I'm doing it the next day, I actually don't want to do that. So those are both false. It has no purpose right now, but um, yeah. And all that is this extra parameter here. Probably should be a named argument instead of positional, or at least have a default value. And then basically it's saying here if the path is this and override is not set to true, then it will just give you back the data it already has. Otherwise, it'll get new data. Okay, but anyways, that is irrelevant now because it doesn't matter. There's that. Again, I want to not include this in the commit. And sorry, I'm hearing something outside. I don't know what that is. And then another thing too, I was noticing when it's getting the data, so this is the data coming from the flat files. It's getting tickers I don't want, basically the ones that have .a, .b, preferred shares, etc. I don't want any of those. I just want tickers that are 1 to 5 letters, which is the max, I believe, A through Z. And that's it. So no weird tickers in there, or tickers that are not just regular common stock. So there's other ways you can do it, but it is a very simple way. Um, there's ways to look up common stock and types of stock for each ticker. I don't want to get that complicated with it. And then I'm doing the same max length thing in here ahead of time. Um, as well. So just get rid of those ahead of time. And remember in here, I'm getting the tickers. Where is it? Where is that actually? Is it in here? Oh no, it's in here, sorry. I'm getting the tickers. Yeah, I'm getting the tickers here from the previous day. So this will save some time because I could just, this is the one filter which will take care of most of it. And if there's any other extra stuff that needs to be filtered out, that can happen. But yeah, that'll help just to filter it out ahead of time. So I'm doing the same thing that I talked about before with the max length stuff. And then here's a timeout param again. So that's that. Okay. And let's go ahead and commit this. There's nothing else to be said here. And what am I doing here? Basically, the market cap data is kind of obvious. The main change here is getting the previous data. Getting run handle running before open prod. Basically is what I'm trying to do here. It's the main thing. Okay. Last thing to go over is the scanner.